no warm-up, no warm-up. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be in Windsor. It's a pleasure to be back. It's great to be in the home of the Spitfires. I want to be home of the Spitfires. There we go. Yeah, go Spits. And actually, go Spits. They're in the playoffs, right? They're going to have a good run, continuing in the tradition of Al Arbour and Glenn Hall and Marcel Pronovost. And it's great to be here with our two fantastic Liberal candidates, Chris Sutton and Eric Kuzmarek. And above all, it's great to be here in the home of the Canadian auto industry. You know, we're here today because of who's behind me. Proud union members, men and women who are the backbone of the Canadian auto manufacturing sector. And because they're at the backbone of that sector, they are the cornerstone of the Windsor economy, and they're what make Canada strong. And we're also here because of what's over there and what it represents, the Ambassador Bridge, a bridge that for almost a century has stood as a symbol of cooperation and of peace. It's also been a symbol of the greatest friendship between two countries the world has ever seen. And it's more than a symbol. It carries a quarter of all goods traded between Canada and the United States, 1/4 of all goods. That is $140 billion every year. It is $400 million every single day. It's an extraordinary achievement. It's an extraordinary friendship and economic partnership. Et maintenant, ces chiffres et les emplois et les chèques de paie qui en dépendent sur l'échange sont mis en question. Les relations entre le Canada et les États-Unis ont changé. Ce n'est pas nous qui avons changé. President Trump's trade war has put the kinship that exists between our great nations under greater strain than at any point in our storied histories. And his trade war is hurting, and it will hurt more, American consumers and workers. I see that American consumer confidence is at a multi-year low today. And those American workers and consumers should be President Trump's concern. But his trade war also threatens to work and hurt hardworking Canadians, the people I care about, the people we care about. It threatens union workers like those behind me from Unifor, those down the 401 at auto assembly plants in Ingersoll and Oshawa and Oakville. It threatens people in Hamilton who are working in the steel mills and up in the Saguenay at the aluminum smelters. And like hundreds of thousands of Canadians who just want to earn a good paycheck and build a good life. It's understandable that Canadians are anxious. And that's why our new government has committed to use all of the revenues from our retaliatory tariffs against the United States, use all of those revenues to support Canadian workers. We've already turned that commitment into action. To support workers, we have temporarily waived the 1-week employment insurance waiting period. We've changed the rules so that workers don't have to exhaust severance pay before collecting EI. We've made it easier to access EI, and we've made it more generous. I have announced that a new Liberal government will put more money in Canadians' pockets through a middle-class tax cut, a tax cut that will save a two-income family up to $825 a year. Because we know we're stronger together, because we know that, and we know that we're all in this together. Healthcare in Canada is a right, not a big business like it is across the river. Because we're all in this together, our government has created $10 a day childcare for hard-working families so that both partners can work. Because we're all in it together, we've created the Canadian Dental Care Plan that's already served 1.8 million Canadians and is poised to serve more than 5 million more. We know we must do more. And what I want to focus on, not surprisingly, is our auto industry. Autos are our #2 export in this country. It is a sector that supports 125,000 jobs directly and almost another 500,000 jobs in related industries. Many of them good union jobs. We have over 3,300 vehicles that roll off our assembly lines every single day. And the workers who build them contribute over $6 million in taxes every single day. Canadian auto workers don't just build vehicles, they build Canada. And our auto sector has always been there for our country. So in this time of uncertainty and need, Canada will be there for our auto workers. That is why today I'm announcing that the new Liberal government will create the Strategic Response Fund. And this is a $2 billion fund that will protect the jobs of workers affected by President Trump's tariffs. But it'll do much more than that. It will fortify the entire Canadian auto supply chain, from raw materials to finished vehicles. Because we're not just protecting the present, we're looking to build the future. We're creating new jobs. Under our plan, we will build an all-in Canada network for auto manufacturing components. Because on average, an auto part crosses that border, often through that bridge, over that bridge, 6 times before final assembly. And in a trade war, that's a huge vulnerability, tariff as it goes into the United States each time. So what we need to do is build more of those autos and more of each auto right here in Canada. In the new world, that will be an advantage. That will help insulate us from President Trump's trade threats. And it'll grow the economy right here in Windsor and across southwestern Ontario. Nous allons renforcer la chaîne automobile en entier. Les minéraux critiques forment une fondation solide pour une économie forte. La bonne nouvelle, on a beaucoup. Nous allons travailler avec les industries, les partenaires autochtones, les intervenants et tous les autres du gouvernement pour catalyser cette opportunité pour le Canada. Until today, it's taken too long to get important projects done. Projects that leverage Canada's abundance of natural resources, including critical minerals. We have to move faster to get them approved and underway. That all changes with my government. To make business in this sector easier and more efficient, we will establish a First Mile Fund. We announced this last Friday with the provinces. And what this fund will do is to provide capital to build transmission and transportation networks that link extraction sites to rails and roads. We'll also establish a one-window approval process. That means eliminating duplicative federal requirements by recognizing provincial assessments for major projects. One project, one review. And we will identify projects of national significance and accelerate the time it takes to build them. One project, one review, speed, size, it's time to build. Now, building will include building out critical minerals in the Ring of Fire in partnership with Indigenous peoples. It will include building out our ports, reinforcing and building the Port of Montreal, and new ports like Grays Bay in Nunavut. We will create complete supply chains for the future of our auto industry and new markets for it to sell into. Et finalement, je m'engage à mobiliser des fonds publics pour donner la priorité aux véhicules construits au Canada et les acheter afin de catalyser les investissements nationaux et développer l'industrie automobile canadienne. Finally, I'm committing that a new Liberal government will buy Canadian vehicles to grow our auto industry and create more good union jobs. Thank you. We are building Canada strong. And our actions are supporting the work of nearly 500,000 Canadians who work directly or indirectly in this sector. We're supporting their families. We're supporting their communities. We're supporting this great country. That's the thing that President Trump just doesn't get. He wants to break us so America can own us. And it will never, ever happen because we don't just look out for ourselves, we look out for each other. That's what unions do. That's what the Liberal government is doing. Together we will make Canada strong. Now, there is another person who just doesn't get it, and that's Pierre Poilievre. Contrairement aux libéraux, il ne comprend pas ce qu'il faut en cas de crise. Il ne comprend pas le leadership que veulent les Canadiens pendant des moments difficiles. Les Canadiens veulent un leadership positif qui les rassemble, pas qui les sépare. We're stronger together. Negative slogans aren't solutions. Anger isn't action. Division isn't strength. Pierre Poilievre's approach for division sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's because, as Premier Smith said, and I quote, Pierre Poilievre is very much in sync with President Trump. And someone who worships Donald Trump will kneel down before him, not stand up to him. Negativity won't win a trade war. It won't pay the rent or the mortgage, and negativity won't bring down the price of groceries. It won't protect good union jobs. Negativity won't make Canada strong. You know, finally, this is the most consequential election of our lifetimes. And Canadians have a clear choice. My government is meeting the moment with purpose, with partnership, and with force. And together, under a new Liberal government, we will build a stronger and more resilient auto industry. We will build and create more higher-paying union jobs. We will build the strongest economy in the G7. We will build Canada strong. Merci, thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. We will now take questions. We'll take about 15 minutes of questions from the delegation and then local media. Vous allez prendre une quinzaine de minutes de questions de la délégation, puis ensuite des médias locaux. Première question, Fanny.
Okay.
Bonjour, M. Carney. Fanny
Bonjour,
Olivier
madame.
de Radio-Canada. Quand vous étiez à Brookfield, vous avez dirigé 2 fonds de transition verte que vous avez enregistrés aux Bermudes. Alors, je comprends que le recours aux paradis fiscaux n'est pas nécessairement illégal, mais est-ce qu'à vos yeux, c'est moral?
C'est les fonds de Brookfield, les investisseurs dans les fonds de Brookfield, y compris les caisses de dépôt de Québec, par exemple, les fonds pour les enseignants ici à l'Ontario. Et c'est une méthode afin d'avoir les rendements pour des gens qui bénéficient des investissements de la caisse de dépôt et d'autres fonds de pension canadiens. Et les impôts sont payés par les individus, en effet. Ça, c'est la vérité.
Mais en même temps, comment est-ce que les Canadiens peuvent vous faire confiance pour lutter contre l'évasion fiscale si, dans votre ancienne entreprise, vous avez vous-même eu recours?
Non, c'est une méthode afin d'avoir les impôts payés ici au Canada par des individus. Et au fond, moi, je comprends comment le monde se fonctionne et je mets en œuvre des règles afin de régler l'invasion, la vraie évasion des impôts.
Lesquels?
D'accord. Lesquels? D'accord. The structure of these funds is designed to benefit the pension funds, the Canadian pension funds that invest in them, the Caisse de dépôt, Ontario Teachers as 2 examples. the beneficiaries of those pension funds, teachers, retirees, municipal employees, they pay the taxes on their pension. That's the design. The follow-up is how do I know? I understand how the world works and the structure works, and have the ability to put in place all of the necessary rules to ensure that the appropriate taxes are paid here in Canada, as is the case in the example that you just gave. The taxes are paid. Ils sont payés ici au Canada. Okay, d'accord. Ensuite.
Hi, Mr. Carney. Tom Parry with CBC. Could I just follow up on that? Could you explain in the case of those Brookfield funds, like what was the argument for registering the funds in Bermuda? Is it ethical to do that? And is it something as Prime Minister that you'd have to crack down on? I'm not sure if it's a problem, but is that something that you'd have to crack down on?
I think the important thing, Tom, is that the flow through of the funds go to Canadian entities who then pay the taxes appropriately, as opposed to taxes being paid multiple times before they get there. So that's how we have the structure. That's the structure that all of our pension funds, par exemple, the Caisse de dépôt, or Ontario teachers, or OMERS, municipal employees, or all the big pension funds in Canada, which are very successful, which protect union workers in many cases. I'm speaking of union workers today, and supply to them. It's those entities and their employees who are covered. So the structures work for that effect.
What's the advantage, though, of putting it into a place like
It ensures that it's an efficiency of a structure, so that ensures that the flow through goes to the entities that are resident in the countries.
But is it avoiding tax in any way?
It doesn't avoid tax, because the tax is paid in, for example, the examples all I gave, the taxes are paid in Canada, yes. Okay?
Next question, back.
Hi, Mr. Carney. Mackenzie Gray with Global News. Just on your personal assets, do you have any, in Stripe and Brookfield, do you have any equity, stock options, or anticipate any future payments from either two of those companies?
So the first thing to say with respect to my personal assets is I have complied with all of the rules. In fact, I've over-complied with all of the rules in advance. So months and months and months in advance, and put in place both divestitures. So I actually don't own directly any stocks in those companies, but since I had worked at those companies, I put in place ethical screens. So my approach to public life, and I've been in public life for more than 2 decades, is to meet all the standards and surpass the standards with the highest integrity. And my record, you can look at it, my track record is that as Governor of the Bank of Canada and other roles internationally. So I comply with the rules. Pierre Poilievre has had 927 days to get his security clearance and still hasn't bothered to do that. And I think it shows a fundamental difference in approach. I more than comply. I more than comply in advance. He never complies.
Spécifiquement sur vos actifs, M. Carney.
Mais en ce qui concerne mes actifs, j'en ai plus des actifs dans les 2 compagnies, Brookfield et Stripe, mais j'ai déjà mis un écran de conflit afin de mieux protéger des impressions des conflits. Et les choses fondamentales, c'est moi, je suis, toutes mes affaires sont en ordre bien en avance que nécessaire. Mais pour M. Poilievre, il n'a rien fait pour plus de 927 jours. Pas de code sécuritaire. C'est bizarre, c'est pas acceptable. Il faut accepter, on doit accepter, mais c'est pas responsable dans un moment de crise.
So I understand you might not own any stock directly right now, but I'm talking about in the future. So I just want to come back to this again.
Well, I'm not going to own, just to be clear, sorry if I may, just to be clear, I own nothing now. I came into public life at a time of crisis. I put my hand up because of the crisis, because of what's represented by that bridge, what's represented by the threats to these good men and women of Unifor and their colleagues across southwestern Ontario and across Canada. I came in. What I've done is put all my affairs in order, well in advance. I own nothing but cash and personal real estate. So, and that's not going to change. In public life, that's not going to change. It's actually quite straightforward.
So then, just to be clear, then, going forward, you have no potential equity stake, no potential stock option, or any other potential future payments that you currently anticipate could come from either Strike or Brookfield.
So what I have is cash, personal real estate, and they're assets all those assets were divested into a blind trust, which is managed by a trustee, and it literally means exactly what it says. I don't know what's in it. En français pour la dernière partie, madame? Ou, oui, ok. D'accord, il y a une fiducie, en effet, une fiducie aveugle. Je ne sais pas les actifs dedans parce qu'il y a une fiducie qui gère les actifs.
Est-ce que vous avez investi dans ces fonds? Est-ce que vous avez investi dans ces fonds au Bermudes, vous, personnellement?
Vas-y.
Bonjour, M. Carney. Au sujet de la gaffe que vous avez fait hier en parlant de Polytechnique, est-ce que ça témoigne du fait que peut-être vous manquez de connaissances au sujet du Québec? Est-ce que vous considérez que vous avez assez de connaissances sur les particularités du Québec?
Ah oui. Premièrement, je le regrette énormément. C'est clair que je me suis manifestement mal exprimé et mon respect et ma gratitude à Nathalie Provost de se joindre à notre équipe et de travailler avec elle. J'aime le Québec. Hein. Je ne suis pas québécois, c'est évident. Je viens d'Alberta. C'est évident que mon français est loin d'être parfait, mais j'aime le Québec, la langue, la culture, l'histoire, l'initiative, les entrepreneurs du Québec et je m'engage beaucoup au Québec et des sujets du Québec. Par exemple, j'ai lancé ma campagne économique en Mauricie, au Québec, et je passe plus de jours au Québec pendant la campagne de chefferie que d'autres provinces, par exemple.
Et est-ce que vous vous entourez dans votre garde rapprochée, dans ceux qui vous conseillent? Est-ce que vous avez des Québécois dans votre équipe qui vous conseillent sur les particularités, par exemple, du Québec?
Oui. Par exemple, on a un cabinet de 23 personnes. On a 6 ministres qui viennent du Québec. Le ministre des Finances, le ministre des Affaires étrangères, le ministre de la Culture et Identité canadienne. Et plusieurs d'autres, par exemple. Et dans mon équipe, j'ai plusieurs personnes qui viennent du Québec qui me conseillent.
Mais dans votre équipe, à vous, là, dans votre campagne, au sein de vos conseillers à vous, là, pas au sein du Conseil des ministres?
Oui, par exemple, Pascal Desrosiers, Janice Charette, il y en a beaucoup. On a une équipe de plus de 150 personnes maintenant. Une grande équipe et une forte équipe du Québec. Mais merci.
We'll
Mr.
do
Carney,
the
can you
last
repeat
question.
that in English, please, specifically about your regrets for making that mistake yesterday and whether or not it shows perhaps a shortcoming in terms of your language as well as understanding of Quebec issues?
Well, I wouldn't say I very much regret that I misspoke yesterday. The horrors of the December 6th massacre at the Polytechnic are very much still with us, and the lessons are still to be fully learned. In fact, I just had a conversation this morning around related issues of conjugal violence. I'm extending the point, but it's there. It's not that was not a question of language. That was a question of misspeaking, to follow up on the previous question or to translate the previous question for you, response. Look, we have a very strong Quebec team. I'm very proud. We have 6 of our ministers, and I won't list them all, senior ministers of a cabinet of 23. So more than a quarter of the ministers are from Quebec. Within the 150 members of our team, very senior Quebec representation. I have very strong ties into Quebec society as well. It's, of course, I'm not from Quebec. Not everyone is from Quebec. I'm come from Alberta. I'm born in the north, and my French is fine, but it's not perfect.
Mr. Carney, I'm Judy Trin with CTV News. We have confirmed that Chandra Arya was disqualified because of foreign interference, specifically related to his meeting with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Given the fact that you have security clearance, can you tell Canadians why that is a concern? And the Liberals have yet to put up a full roster of candidates in all 343 ridings. What is the possibility that foreign interference is impacting that selection of candidates, either from India, China, Russia, Iran?
Let me go. I'm going to deal quickly with the first part of your question, if I may, which is that one of the things, and I've had security clearance for almost 2 decades in various forms at various times. One of the things about having security clearance is you don't then take information that you have from security clearance and repeat it to others. This is something Mr. Poilievre wouldn't know because he doesn't have his security clearance. And first point. Second, with respect to the Liberal candidates, I'll say 2 things. One is we have a very robust and serious process of vetting candidates. And we take it very seriously, and so there are some candidates that we don't, to use our terminology, green light, we don't approve, and that is the case with Mr. Arya. There is tremendous interest in joining our candidate slate. We have a remarkable slate of candidates. I will just note the announcement yesterday of Sean Fraser coming in. I could point to Gregor Robertson, Natalie Provost, as we talked about earlier, Evan Solomon, Tim Hodge, like just a huge range of interest of people running for this team. And it's because of 2 things, if I may. One, it's a time of crisis, and people recognizing that in their own way they want to step up and help our country, and I salute them for it. And secondly, because the Liberal Party uniquely sees that we're all in this together. So it's a strong economy, but it's a strong social safety net. It's good union jobs and reinforcing those jobs. It is providing support for Canadians who can't afford it. So we don't say, as Mr. Poilievre said yesterday, oh, I guess dental care, some people actually do use dental care, so if you've got in under the window now, you can keep it. But everyone else, it's too late. It's too late. Oh, and by the way, if you're using childcare, forget about it. This is what's bringing people to the Liberal Party. And we have an incredible group of candidates. I'm very proud of them. And we will have a great team in government.
You're in an area that back in 2022 was the site of a week-long blockade by people who were angry about the Trudeau government's COVID policies. What do you say to those Canadians who lost trust in the Liberal government back then and do not have trust in you now because of your affiliation with that party?
Well, look, I haven't been a politician. I became a politician 2 months ago, a little more than 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. And I came in because I knew this country needed big change. We needed big change in the economy. We needed big change in how we supported people. We needed big change to deal with Trump. And I think you've seen that in the short time that my government has been in place, that big change. We canceled the consumer carbon tax. We got rid of the capital gains tax. We put in place a series of protections for workers with respect to the Trump tariffs, whereas Mr. Poilievre would just use all of that money that belongs to them because they're the ones who are being hit, use them to cut taxes for others. We extended dental care. We negotiated new security partnerships with our oldest partners in France and the UK. I could go on, but Mr. Chase is waiting. Part of how you re-earn trust, and I understand the frustrations of those people, I understand the frustrations with respect to the cost of living. Part of the way you earn trust is by action. And what this government is all about is action. Steve, I'm sorry.
Last question to Steve before turning to
Hi,
local. Thank you.
Steve Chase from the Globe and Mail. I got one question and one follow-up. The first question is about these issues that Mr. Poilievre raised yesterday. He's suggesting you're beholden to China. He talked about your regular visits to China. You went there at the time when Xi was trying to show the world that he's open for business. You went back in the fall. Then Brookfield secured a $276 million loan for some property there. I guess that was underwater. Was that a sweetheart loan? Are you beholden to China?
Absolutely not. First thing. Second thing I'll say, look, Mr. Poilievre doesn't understand the world. Mr. Poilievre is a lifelong politician. It's all he's ever done. These slogans, sound bites, slander, doesn't understand how the world works. China happens to be our second largest trading partner. It's our second largest trading partner. We have trade disputes with China right now caused by them in the agriculture sector. It's one of the areas which we need to engage on. It's one of the areas, when you think about, again, the auto sector and the future of the auto sector, we've got to understand where China is, where China is going, whether or not there's any room for partnership in that. Look, I'm beholden to absolutely no one except to the Canadian people. I am here for the Canadian people. Steve, your follow-up?
Yeah, follow-up.
Continue. Continue.
The Chinese ambassador's given, I think, 3 or 4 interviews in the last few weeks talking about his interest in reopening free trade talks. My question for you is, as we try to diversify away from the United States and reduce our reliance on our trade with the United States, is it your belief that we should be increasing our trade with China?
Look,
and reopening free trade talks.
Here's my view on this broader set of issues. We need to diversify our trade as a country. We are over-reliant on, as wonderful as the trade going across that bridge, we are over-reliant on the United States. I think it's a lesson we've all learned. We need to diversify. We want to diversify with like-minded partners. That's why I went to Europe in my first days as Prime Minister. Spoke first with European President von der Leyen, obviously met with the French President, and then separately, because it's not part of Europe anymore, as you know, the United Kingdom, in terms of building trade with them. There are partners in Asia that we can build deeper ties. There is certain activity that, but the partners in Asia that share our values don't include China. There's certain activity that we could have with China. We obviously do have a large amount of trade with them, but we have to be very careful, very deliberate, and they need to meet Canadian standards. Okay, merci.
Monsieur Carney, est-ce que vous pouvez traduire votre réponse sur la Chine, s'il vous plaît?
Sur la Chine,
Est-ce que vous êtes compromis? Merci.
pardon, la dernière partie de...
Juste, si vous pouvez traduire votre réponse sur la Chine, est-ce que vous êtes compromis?
Compromis, pas du tout. Pas du tout. Je travaille pour les Canadiens et les Canadiens. C'est facile. M. Poilievre, il devient de plus en plus fâché et désespéré. Il invente toutes les choses. Il est un homme de... He's a conspiracy theorist. Spends too much time with his MAGA friends, and he comes up with whatever he can think of. I'm beholden to the Canadian people. I'm proud to be working with my colleagues at a crucial time for our country. And I'll say one last thing. We have a positive agenda for this country. We are bringing Canadians together to build. Yes, the auto sector is under threat, but what today is about is building the future of the auto sector together. That's the positive agenda, not coming up with the slander of the day. Thank you very much.
Two quick questions from local.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good morning, Rob Hindy from AM 800. I'm guessing Eric and Chris and the union officials behind you have told you how these tariffs will impact Windsor-Essex. So your message to Windsor-Essex, your supporters and undecided voters as well.
Yeah, so the message is clear. We are absolutely laser focused on this issue. We are laser focused on the issue. You have two great individuals behind you and direct lines of communication to me in the cabinet to make sure that we're taking action. So we have done several things in order to put in place the support that's necessary. I won't go to all of them, but a bunch of financing facilities for the companies that work here so that they can continue to operate while we're negotiating a better deal for Canada. That's the first thing. I mentioned the support for workers. But what we're also doing, and I think this is crucial, is we're not waiting. Because one of the things we're learning is that on the other side of the bridge, they're a little volatile. They're a little up and down, a little bit on and off, hot and cold with respect to the relationship. So what we're looking to do is take control of our destiny, build more here, build more of the supply chain here in Canada, create stronger ties, more jobs for the future. And that's what the $2 billion strategic fund that we're announcing today, and the links to a number of other programs. This is going to go directly to companies to make investments to build Canada strong. And that's the message. So it's not about waiting until the Americans become more reasonable. It's about acting now, and that's a far better place to be. Take control of our destiny.
Last question, dernière question.
Good morning, Mark. This is Pratish from TBC News. Windsor, are there any plans for the Liberal Party to put up a candidate in Windsor West?
Absolutely. We will have a great candidate. Look, we have, just on terms of candidates, we're in the last weeks of candidate selection. We, as I said before, we have a fantastic team. I'm so proud to be associated with them, and it is truly a team that's coming together to work for Canadians, and that's what Canadians expect. We're all coming together, we're stronger together, and the Liberal Party is stronger for you. Thank you very much. Merci
Thank you.
beaucoup.
This was Sands press conference.